Hey family, this is your girl, Yunkus Pepe. And today we're talking about something that I think so many of us quietly struggle with, but barely and rarely say out loud. You know that feeling when you're doing everything right, taking care of the kids, showing up for your husband, showing up for work, holding down the home, holding everything together. But somewhere deep inside, you just feel gone, like you're not even there. That's where this story begins. This one is personal. It's raw, but I promise that by the end, it might just give you permission to breathe again. So I once asked myself, if I'm not a mom, who am I? If I'm not a wife, who am I? That silence came back and it was terrifying. I was so lost inside the role of the perfect African mother that I had completely disappeared. If that sounds even a little familiar, then I think this story is for you too. Because let's be real, if you clicked on this video, you're probably stretched thin too. Because that thumbnail did send a message. You're the nurturer. You're also part of the provider. You're the problem solver, the pillar of strength for your family and even your community. But you're also tired. So tired. Now, did you know that recent survey shows majority of parents feel burnt out by their responsibilities? Some studies actually say roughly 2/3 of mothers experience burnout. That's a lot. It's this quiet exhaustion that's sweeping through motherhood. And for us, especially as Black women, there's another layer on top of all of that. The cumulative effect of all the systematic racism, it takes a toll on our physical and emotional health, increasing the likelihood of stress and anxiety. Now, we all know the unspoken rule. You have to be twice as good to get half as much. And that pressure seeps right into our parenting. This isn't just about trying to be a good mom. It's not about trying to be a good wife. It's about feeling like you have to be a flawless one. It's a standard that's pushing so many of us into burnout, anxiety, and depression. So today, we're going to talk about something we usually try to avoid. That moment when you look in the mirror and realize you're a ghost in your own life. This is my story of how I went from total burnout to absolute bliss. And I'm going to show you how you can get there too. So let's get to it. It all started on a Tuesday. I remember it so clearly because my son had a dental appointment. I had a work deadline that was screaming my name. And dinner was a problem I hadn't even begun to solve. I was sitting in my car in the grocery store parking lot after purchasing everything I needed to get, and I physically could not move. I couldn't. My hands were clamped to the steering wheel. I glanced at my reflection in the rearview mirror and I didn't recognize the person that was staring back at me. I didn't. The light in her eyes were gone, and all I saw were dark circles underneath them. I had become a checklist. Yes, a checklist. Just a long series of roles of a mom, a wife, a daughter, an employee, a church worker, a cook, a cleaner, a chauffeur. All the roles I signed up for. Not forced into it, I signed up for it. And somewhere in perfecting all of these beautiful roles, the me I used to be had totally vanished. I was drowning in the pressure to be that perfect African mom. The strong, resilient, never showing a single crack in the mirror. We're taught to put everyone else first. We're taught to push our feelings down. We're taught to never ever be vulnerable. There's actually a name for this pressure. Can you guess? Yeah, the Superwoman Schema. It describes how so many Black women feel obligated to project strength and suppress emotion. But that strength, that resilience, was costing me my soul. That Superwoman cape is a heavy thing to wear. I was suffocating in it. Right there in that car, that silence that answered my question, who am I, was the loudest, most painful sound I had ever heard in my entire life. So for months, maybe even years, I had been running on fumes. My life was this blur of doing, giving, and achieving. And I was completely ignoring the warning signs my body and my spirit were giving and screaming at me. That kind of fatigue that no amount of sleep could fix. The irritability where the tiniest thing could make me want to just scream. That feeling of being emotionally numb sometimes, disconnected from my own kids, my husband, even while I was right there with them. Those are classic symptoms of a burnout. But I just brushed it off as that's mom and wifey life. This pressure hits especially hard for Black mothers. We carry an invisible load that's more than typical parenting. Yes, it's more than the typical parenting stress. We're raising confident kids in a world that doesn't always celebrate them while trying to stay whole in our own selves. Now, there's this cultural expectation, sometimes even from our own families, that we just have to be strong, that we don't have time for sadness or fear. I remember telling myself again and again, I don't have time to feel this right now. I have so many things to do. But disconnecting from my feelings became the very thing that disconnected me from what I really needed. I felt like I was falling everywhere. Yes, I looked strong on the outside, but I was broken on the inside. And social media didn't help. Excuse me. The endless scroll of perfect families. It's a trap that whispers, you're not enough. My obsession with being the perfect do-it-all mom and wife wasn't just wrecking my own mental health. It was hurting my kids and my husband too. Because I was so focused on keeping them from falling. I didn't even realize I was the one who had already hit the ground. Yes, I did. I hit the ground. I was living with high functioning depression, just going through the motions. The joy was gone. Hobbies I used to love felt like chores. I was losing myself in all of this. And the scariest part, even though my husband noticed, I kept pretending everything was fine. He'd ask me several times over and over, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'll always say nothing. He was genuinely concerned. But he also had his own responsibilities to manage, So after a while, he just kept moving through his days, handling what he needed to handle. Because he thought I was okay, while I just quietly unraveled inside, completely. The turning point. Now, my turning point wasn't a big trip or a spa day. Well, maybe that will be it for you, but that wasn't it for me. It came from pure desperation in the quiet of my house, long after everyone else was asleep. I was scrolling on my phone, just looking for something, an answer, a lifeline, and I stumbled on an article about the mental health benefits of journaling. Yes, journaling. At first, I laughed. Journaling? Isn't that what teenage girls do? Because I used to. How could writing in a notebook possibly fix the crushing weight of my life? It felt too simple, almost insulting, actually, but I was desperate. Something in that article stuck with me. It described journaling as a private, judgment-free zone to unload your thoughts, and witness your emotions without pressure. A personal space to find clarity. The idea of a space that was just for me with zero expectations felt like a deep breath of fresh air. I didn't know it existed. I didn't. I remembered an old notebook in my bedside drawer that night with a cheap pen and a heart full of rocks. I started writing. I started writing everything as I was feeling them. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't poetic. It's not something I can share. It was messy. It was tear stained. It was mumbo jumbo all over the place. Some of anger, some of resentment, guilt, and sadness that I had bottled up for years. I didn't know it was that bad. Honestly, I didn't. I wrote about the pressure, the loneliness, the feeling of being invisible. Everything I was too scared to say out loud, I wrote in the journal. And when I was done, I didn't feel magically cured, but I did feel a lot lighter. Like I had taken the tangled mess in my head and laid it out on the page. For the first time in a long time, I had given myself permission to just feel. It was a tiny crack of light in that darkness. That notebook became my sanctuary. Now, you want to know how all the healing began? Yes, the transformation begins here. That one simple act of writing kicked off a quiet revolution in my life. It didn't happen overnight, but slowly, journaling became the self-care habit that saved my motherhood and my marriage. It became my daily check-in with myself, a way to process the day and reconnect with the woman I had lost. Somewhere along the way between being a wife and being a mom and taking up all of these roles that I signed up for. And there's real science to this. Studies show that journaling reduces stress, it manages anxiety, and even helps heal trauma. So by writing things down, I started to actually understand my own feelings and why I was feeling these things. I could see patterns in the stress. I could pinpoint the triggers and finally get clear on what I truly needed. That new self-awareness changed everything for me. I realized self-care isn't selfish. It's necessary for survival, for the well-being of my family. And the change wasn't just with my kids. My connection with my husband deepened too. Through writing, I finally also realized how much I had missed our friendship. The one that had gotten lost somewhere between mom and dad. As I started to find myself again, I was able to find my husband too. Not just as my co-parent, but as my partner and my lover. When you start to heal yourself, it creates this beautiful ripple effect across your entire family. I was more present. I was more patient. I was more joyful. I wasn't just going through the motions anymore. I was truly connecting with the people I loved the most. And this was the beginning of my healing. But what came next completely transformed how I showed up for myself, for my husband, and for my children. Most importantly, I started to answer that terrifying question, who am I? Through my journal, I rediscovered my passions, my dreams, my values, and all the things that made me outside of being a mom and a wife. I realized that me and all of these roles can coexist and needed to coexist. I remembered the woman who loved to read novels, the one who enjoyed long walks, even by myself, the one who had opinions that had nothing to do with meal plans or laundry schedules. I was no longer waiting for my kids to leave the nest before living and enjoying my husband. I was building a life right alongside them. That simple practice, putting pen to paper, gave me my voice back. I still can't share the book with you anyway. It gave me the courage to set boundaries, to say no, when I needed to prioritize my own rest without feeling guilty about it. It was the permission slip I desperately needed to finally take off that Superwoman cape and just be a human again and just be me. Now, if any of this is hitting home for you, I want to help you get started. I know journaling can sound like one more thing on your to-do list, but it doesn't have to be. No, it doesn't. How you can do it too. Yes, you can. I know what you might be thinking. I don't have time for this. Journaling? I'm not even a writer. What would I even write about? I wasn't a writer either. I'm still not a writer. And I hear you. And I was you. But let me give you a simple, no pressure way to start. Seriously. There are no rules here. None. Step 1, find your space. This is not about buying a fancy leather journal. It can be a dollar store notebook, the apps on your phone, or even a private blog. Even though I wouldn't do a private blog because it's the internet, whatever. Anything can end up anywhere. The tool doesn't matter. What matters is that it feels safe, private, and it's just for you. Got it? Number 2, start small. 5 minutes. That's it. Just try it. Don't try to write a novel. Just set a timer and let whatever is in your head spill out on paper. If you're staring at a blank page, try one of these prompts. Right now, I am feeling da 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 da. One thing that was hard today was one tiny thing I'm grateful for is, yes, just write it. And that last one right there, that last one, gratitude, that can shift your entire mindset when practiced regularly. It's like, I can't breathe without it. The only goal here is to get the thoughts out of your head and onto the page. That's it. That's the only goal here. So whatever you're feeling, even if it doesn't make sense, just write it out. Write it. Step 3, be honest. Be brutally honest. No one's going to see it. No one else is going to read this. This is your space to be messy, to be angry, to be sad, to be confused, or hopeful, whatever it is. Put it on paper. Don't edit yourself. Don't polish your thoughts. Writing down your deepest feelings can bring so much clarity. It lowers anxiety and even helps your brain process problems differently. I didn't know that. Look, it's not about being perfect. No, it's about letting go of everything you've been holding in. And please, don't let this become another chore. Think of it as a conversation with yourself. A few sacred minutes in your day that belongs entirely to you. It's an act of radical self-preservation that we all need. A way of telling yourself that I matter, that you matter. Your peace matters. Your quality of life matters. Not just because you're a mother or a wife, but because you are you. Yes, because you're you. Section 5. This idea that Black women have to be strong all the time, it's a dangerous lie. It has taken a huge toll on our mental and physical health. It's trickled us into believing our needs come last. But here's the truth. The best thing you can do for your family is to take care of yourself, physically, mentally, and spiritually. You are not just a mom. You are not just a wife. You are not just an employee or whatever level you are in your life. You are a whole person with your own dreams and needs and identity. And it is not selfish to nurture that person. It is essential to the quality of life that you will eventually have. When you put your well-being first, you're not just saving yourself, you're modeling for your children what it looks like to be whole and healthy. You're breaking generational cycles of trauma and emotional suppression. And you're showing them that a mother's love must include loving herself too. And here's our closing reflection. If you're in that dark place I was, sitting in your car, feeling completely lost, please know this: you're not alone. And it doesn't have to stay this way. No, it doesn't. You don't need to disappear into motherhood or wifehood. You can find your way back to yourself. And it might just start with a single pen and a blank page. So, are we doing this? Thank you for being here with me today. If this story helped you, please consider subscribing and joining our community. We need our digital village now more than ever. Share your own story in the comments if you'd like, because your voice could be the lifeline someone else needs to hear. And remember, be gentle with yourself. You're doing a great job. And until next time, this is your girl, Yinkus Pepe.